Alright, this video is to set up your paint and get your practice started. So for my practice this time, I'm going to be using the phthalo green and white and black, and that's what everybody should be using. Your table should be set up with either phthalo green, magenta, or blue. Whatever your table has is what you're going to be using for your practice. So I'm going to just open up the green and squirt a little bit out into one of my paint wells, just like that. So we've got green, and then the black and the white are in these funny little tubs, and you will use popsicle sticks to pull them out. You shouldn't need very much black, so just a little dab will do ya. And then you can put the popsicle stick back in. And then white, you will need a little bit more white. Now, for the white, because you're going to be doing a couple of different steps of mixing the white, you're going to get a couple different sections of white for this. So I'm going to make a general white that will just be my extra white, and then I'm going to put another little blob of white in this one right here to make my very light white, and so we'll have two separate little whites to work from. So we'll have the green or red or blue, black, just a little bit of black, and then kind of maybe about a teaspoon of white, and then about a teaspoon of white for the mixing. Over there. All right. So you were all set up with your paint. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is to mix our paint. Now remember, you're going to be looking at this value chart that you have on your handout, and your one should be almost white but have a little bit of paint color in it. This one should be just a little tiny bit darker. This one is just about your pure true hue, so the color as it is. And then this one is very, very dark, not black, but almost black. So let's go ahead and get started with our paint mixing. Now when we're doing your paint mixing, you're going to use a popsicle stick, so you need a popsicle stick and your paper towel. And our goal is to try to mix enough of each color or each tone that you'll be able to do your little practice and your final, but you may end up needing, or your final practice, you may end up needing to remix a little bit after that. Okay, so we're going to start with the very, very light tone, and let me zoom in on this bad boy here. So here we go. So we're going to start with the very, very light tone, and that's what this little section was for. So take your popsicle stick and take a tiny little bit of your paint, and we're going to put it into this white. You see that it's very, very light, but it's not white. And that is your number one tone for this project. Okay, so now we've got it. You want it all mixed and not streaky, so you're just going to blend it around and then wipe the popsicle stick on the side so that all of the extra blobby paint can go in there. And then I have a little paper towel in my hand, and I'm going to wipe off the paint too, because I don't want to mix the white into the green. I want to make sure that they stay separate. Okay, so next I'm going to move the green over, and I want to create, I've got that number 1 value, now I need to create that number 2 value. So what I'm going to do is take the green and move it right here, and that's a lot more green than I used before, right? So there's a lot more green in there, and I'm going to wipe off my popsicle stick so that it doesn't get my white dirty, and I'm going to scoop out a little bit of white and mix it around. So this is about a 50-50 mix of color and white. It's pretty bright. It's definitely green, so it should definitely be reddish or pinkish or bluish if that's the color that you're using. All right, so we're going to end up wiping the sides. So we have 1, 2, now I need 3, and like I said, the 3 is going to be basically this color, your original hue, but it will have a little tiny bit of white in it. So let me wipe off the popsicle stick so that it's not getting things dirty. And I'm going to scoop out some green and wipe it off there. Okay, and now I'm going to take out just a little tiny bit of white and add it into the green. So we always, right, if you want a light color, you add the color to white. If you want a dark color, you add white to the color, okay? White is not very dominant, so if you start with white and add the color, you'll end up with something light, and you can control how much color you put in. But when we're going the other way, you need to make sure that you are going for dark, you are adding white to the color. Now this is almost dark enough, but not quite, so I'm going to get some green again. And the reason that we mix with popsicle sticks or palette knives is because the paintbrushes, they just don't wipe as clean, and you'll end up dirtying up your paint. Okay, so that's a lot closer to what I was looking for. So I have a nice dark. So I have 1, 2, and 3, and now I need number 4. Now number 4 is going to be a green tone with a little bit of black, and black gets very overpowering very quickly. So what I'm going to do is to start with the green. I've wiped off my stick again. Get a lump of green over here, and then I'm going to wipe off the popsicle stick, and I'm going to get just a little bit of black and mix it in. So it should definitely look green, and it might not look green to the camera, but I promise in real life it's looking green, and when you paint it down it should look green. So now I feel like I've done it. I've done a nice job. I have all of these. Now what I need to do is to test it and see if I have actually done a good job with my paint, and then I can start if I have. So I'm throwing that ball of paper towel in the garbage and getting a new one. And let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, so over here I have my little paint, my little value chart ready to go. Okay, and for this practice I'm going to use my flat paintbrush. I have my water cup, but there's nothing in it right now, so right from the clean water cup, you're going to pour just a little bit of water so that you'll be able to wash your brush in between tones. And I'm going to start light and get darker because that'll help to keep my paint cleaner. So let's see how it goes with the value chart. So I'm going to first get my paintbrush wet by dipping the brush in the water and wiping it off a little bit because I don't want to make my paint runny, but I do want my brush to be wet so it flows nice. I'm going to start with my number 1 paint, and I'm just going to do some paint swatches to check. So I will paint down a little bit up here, and then now I'm going to wash my brush. So I mush it around like that, wipe it off, and then now I'm going to try my number 2 right next to the number 1. Okay, that might be a little bit too far apart in tone, so we'll just have to see. And then I'll try my number 3. That's my number 3. And then let's try number 4. Definitely green. All right, good. So I'm taking a look at my tones, and you'll have to do this. You have to look at it and think about it yourself. So we'll take them up here and match them up and go, number 1 is pretty close, right? Number 2 is a little bit too dark. 3 is pretty close, and 4 is pretty close. So I need to add a little bit of white to my number 2. look at yours, take a minute and look at yours and see if you need to add any color, any white or any black to any of your colors. And I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of white. It's a lot of white, a little bit of white, and add it to my number 2 to try to lighten it up. Just a skosh. I think I probably should have got a little bit more. All right, and now while I have it on the stick, I'm just going to blob it down. Okay, I like that a lot better. So I feel like I have my 4 tones all nice. I'm going to wipe off the stick and then get ready to start to paint them in. And I'm going to start from light to dark. Oh, goodness. From light to dark, because then it won't matter if the water gets dirty. So I'm going to take my little paper that we got ready and set everything up like this. Now I'm right-handed, so let me zoom out on this. So I'm right-handed, so all of my things get set up over to the right. I have a paper towel in my hand to help me clean up messes. My paint will be like, if I was painting somewhere that was bigger, I would have my paint up here and my water up here, okay, as well. But because I'm painting in the small area so that my camera will work, I have to keep them a little bit closer like this. Okay, so put your paint up to the side. If you're left-handed, do it on the other side so that you can easily get to your paint. Now, you're going to start by painting in flatly your number 1 paint. So I'm going to go over and get everything situated so that you can see. So I've got my flat brush and it's wet but not dripping, and I will get a little bit of paint just on the bristles. Don't get your paint up to your ferrule. And you will paint lift up, paint down, lift up, flip the brush over, paint down, lift up. Just like this, in nice even strokes to fill in the flat tone on your value chart. Get a little bit more. So you're trying to paint in an even flat tone. And I will probably need to do another coat of this. As I'm putting it down, I can see that it's kind of see-through, so I don't want the canvas paper to be visible through it. So there's that to start with. Now I'm going to wipe this on the side because I had a little blobby left, and while that's drying, because you have to let the paint dry in between layers or it will pick up your paintbrush will pick up the paint, and then you're just painting and removing paint. Alright, so I rinsed off my brush and now I'm going to do the number 2 paint. So I dipped my paintbrush into the paint and I'm going to do the same process. So neat and even, using the flat brush. To get a little bit more paint. This one's covering a little bit better because it has more white in it, so I may not need a second coat here. We'll just have to see. Okay, so nice, neat, and flat, and then I'm wiping the little bit left on the side, rinsing out my brush, moving on to the next section. As I go, I'm turning the paint palette so that the paint's closer, getting ready with the 3. This one will definitely need another coat. you paint down, lift up, paint down, lift up. Do not seesaw or scrub back and forth. You just need to paint down and lift up, paint down and lift up. So get nice even coverage. Okay, and then move on to your last section. Rinsing off your brush, wiping it off. Make sure that it's pretty clean before the last section, because the last section needs to be really dark, so if you have any white in your brush, you need to make sure that you're getting it out before you start to do this one. And then we will paint down and lift up. Same process for the end. Now, I'm not going to trap you here while I make several different layers, but they have to be dry in order to do the next layer. And if yours looks like mine, where you can see the paint strokes and you can see the texture of the palette paper through the paint, then you need to do a second coat. And I'll take a picture of the finished product, and plus I'll leave the sketchbook so that you can check yours against mine and see what it's supposed to look like. So just like that. And probably by the time you're done with this dark one, this will be dry enough for you to go back and start doing the front one. So after you get done with it, you can just tape it to this practice paper so that you don't lose it until it's time to put it in your sketchbook and all of your practices are dry and ready to go. So if you just take finish, right? Don't leave it like this, but finish, and take a tiny little bit of tape and just tape it to the top, so like a little bitty guy, and then it'll stay on there. And then if you need to keep working on it tomorrow, it'll be already on your paper, and you can put it on your name over in the drying racks. Thanks, y'all.